Hello everyone, welcome back to G&J Exploring. In today's video we start our 8-week trip around South America and the Caribbean. Now, when we get into the video I will go into this in a little bit more detail, so for now I'm just going to cover some of the more general aspects. The trip we're doing is going to be largely with G Adventures, who are an adventure tour company. We decided to do the bulk of the tour with G Adventures because they do organise pretty much everything and they speak the local language, and all in all they make the whole process a lot easier. For the flights it was a lot cheaper for us to get a return ticket to Miami and then get flights to Lima and back to Miami separately. That came out at quite a lot cheaper, and Miami was quite convenient for the hub of the entire trip. Now, getting to Miami was very straightforward, but when you're in the airport there's no way that we found to transit to another flight inside the airport itself, so we had to leave the airport and then get back in through security. So if you're going to do that, we'd recommend leaving a couple of hours to make sure you don't miss any planes. On arrival in Lima, we got an airport shuttle from the airport to where we were staying in Miraflores called Quick Llama, and they're a good service to use. Would definitely recommend pre-booking because it's not something that you can walk. It's quite a way from where you'd want to go in Lima, and you don't want to be organising it when you get there. Lima itself doesn't have a great deal to do, and we were there for 3 days. So we were in Lima the first and the third day, but the second day we went on a tour to the south of Lima, and we'll cover that in a later video. On arrival in Lima, we stayed in the Miraflores area, which is a very nice part of the city, and it's got access to the coast, which we went to on our first day. In the evening of the first day, we headed into the city centre around 10 kilometres north and had a look at some of the older colonial and historical buildings before going to a park to see a light show. On the second day, we headed out of Lima, as I said, but on the third day, we got back to exploring the city, and we headed to a religious temple from the indigenous peoples relatively close to where we're staying in Miraflores, and had a good look around there before meeting our G Adventures group in the evening and heading out to Kennedy Square for some dinner and preparing for our early morning flight to Cuzco. This is the start of quite a long series of videos on our trip around the Americas, so we hope you enjoy them. And now on with the show. Hello everyone, it's a new day and Juliet and I are in South America. So we have taken some time off work. We have 8 weeks away from work and we have started a trip around South America. So we're currently in Peru, in the capital city Lima, and over the next 8 weeks we will be heading through Peru, into Bolivia, into Chile, into Argentina, into Brazil, and then a little bit of time in the Caribbean at the end. So we've managed to get here fairly painlessly. We had a flight from London to Miami which took about 9 hours, then a layover in Miami for about 6 hours, and then a flight to Lima which took 5 hours. And we landed about 4 o'clock this morning, got the taxi to the hotel. We're at a hotel called Hotel Runca, which is very nice for the money we paid. And after a little bit of a snooze there, we're now out and about, and it's about midday. So all in all, it took us about 24 hours from leaving the house to getting to Peru, which in the grand scheme of things isn't so bad. And now we've had a bit of a snooze, we are ready to go. So right now we're in Miraflores at the front, looking out towards the sea, and we're in some gardens up here high on the cliff, as you can see around us. And as always, it is very pleasant, quite warm when the wind's not blowing, but right now we are going to be hunting down some food because it's a long time since we had a proper meal. We've just had a very nice lunch at Buenavista Café, which is up here on the cliffs at Miraflores. The only downside is they don't serve beer for whatever reason, but apart from that they did very nice burgers, and we had a very nice burger, and we had the nice view of the sea all around. So we're now going to be heading back down the coast a little bit, back past where we did the first video, and we're going to go hunt down a lighthouse about 1 kilometre down the path. So we're a bit further along the path, and we have Lighthouse La Marina here, looking very impressive. And if we just head back over here, we'll get a nice view out across the sea. Juliet and I are still a little bit tired from all of our travels, so we're going to be heading back to the hotel now for a little bit more of a sit down. But later on today we'll be heading into the city centre and going to go visit some museums and a light show in a park. There we have a wonderful view of the sea. Looks like it's got a pier down there, similar to Blackpool maybe. And we've got the lighthouse there, again looking very impressive. It's a bit later in the day and Juliet and I are now in Lima city centre, which is about 10 kilometres away from Miraflores where we're staying. And we've come here on a tour, and the first stop on the tour is this San Francisco of Assisi church, looking very impressive. It has some catacombs we'll be going into a bit later on where we can't do any videos, but we're going to be heading in and having a look around here in a moment. For now though, we'll just bit of knowledge we picked up from the tour guide that we are a long way from the coast here. The city centre is, like I said, about 10 kilometres from Miraflores on the coast, and the reason the city centre is here was 1, to protect from pirates, and 2, because there is a big river right behind the church where they could get easily accessible water from. And now let's just wander in and see what we see. So we won't be able to do videos in the catacombs themselves, but here is what's probably a bit of a taster of what we will find there. Got some dead people down there, and apparently the catacombs existed because people wanted to be buried under holy land or holy buildings. So for a long time they had to be buried under the church and not in graveyards. So it's a bit of a reason why. I always thought it was something a bit more macabre than that, but it was just some religious reasons they had. But it's a nice church, very well done, and quite nice with the music playing. So we have left the crypt, or catacombs, and very interesting it was. So back in the distant past, that's where you got buried, and you were left to rot slowly before getting chucked into a large well for the rest of the time. But we've now left, and we are just having a look around the city centre, and specifically getting some churros from the shop in front of us, which apparently is very nice churros. And Juliet's got some we're going to be snacking on now. And there we go, some churros. Just around the corner from the churros place, we are heading down one of the older roads here in the town. So this used to be a railway track, it's now a pedestrianised street, but there are some very nice period looking buildings around us, and we're heading down to this main square to have a look around. So the central bit of Lima is quite a lot older than the outskirts, obviously, and it does show, although not all of it is old, because there were some earthquakes in the not too distant past and in the distant past which destroyed a lot of the city at various points in time, so it has been rebuilt. But even so, well worth coming to. And Juliet and I are very happy we did the tour. It's only $45, and given they deal with all the bits and bobs, it's worth doing, and certainly a damn sight easier than trying to organise it all ourselves. So just carry on walking down here and we'll get the view of the square all in front of us. So we're now in the center of the square, and this is the main square in all of Peru. And the fountain here is an original fountain from the 1600s, and this is the 0 marker for all road measurements in Peru apparently. And around here we have numerous buildings of note, the main ones being the presidential palace over there, and spinning round we have the cathedral with lots of birds on the top of it, which we were told while we were down the catacombs the birds liked hanging out here because when the catacombs were used and there was a lot of dead bodies in them, the birds would go and be attracted by the smell of all the corpses. Lovely. So we're now going to do some photos, and then we will be heading to another square to look at a display of fountains. So we are in the magical park, at least that's I think roughly the English translation. And in this park, apparently the most visited tourist attraction in all of Peru, we have all of these fountains. Looking very impressive, and there's a lot of different fountains around to go and have a look at. And the main point of coming here beyond the fountains is there is a light show, a little bit like what we can see there, in about 20 minutes time. So we'll watch the light show, and then it'll be back to the hotel and grab a little bit of food along the way. So we'll have a wander around, and when the light show starts, we'll do another video.
So this is a water fountain. George has set out because he's got glasses on, contact lenses on, sorry, not glasses. And I can confirm I am very wet. Not good for George to do if he's got contacts in. I'm not sure how good this is coming across, but I'm definitely getting pretty wet, and I was told I wouldn't. Oh well, good fun. So this is the start of the magic water fountain show.
So after a very hectic car journey back to the hotel area, we've just gone and got a quick bite to eat for dinner, and now we're going to be going and having some sleep because it's still only about 12 hours since we landed and we're a bit jet lagged still. And tomorrow we'll be up very early because we're doing a tour to the south of Lima, where we'll be doing some stuff on a boat, going to some sand dunes, and having lunch at a winery, I think. So we will get back to you tomorrow and show you what we're doing. We are a bit up the road from our hotel. We checked out because it is about midday, And while we wait to check into the next hotel and start our tour with G Adventures, we are at somewhere called Huaca Pucllana or similar, and this is an ancient building structure from the people who lived here before the Spanish, and it looks very impressive from the outside. Lots of bricks, so it looks very big, and shortly we'll be going in and having a look around. We are now inside the temple complex, and we'll be going out on a tour in a little bit. So when you get here, you'll have to queue up a bit, and then the cost is 15 sols to get in, so very reasonable. And on coming in, you'll find a small museum just explaining a bit about the history. And this place was built by a culture called the Lima culture around about 1800 or so years ago, and then used for a bit of time, a couple of hundred years, for various ceremonial and religious reasons, and then various other cultures came in and used it for their own purposes. But it is very impressive, and shortly we'll be heading out and learning more about it. So we are now in the temple complex, following the tour group around, but it is very impressive, very nice to see, and we're now heading up to the top, and I'm sure we'll get a great view once we're up there. And now we are heading up to the top. And there we are, on top of the structure, and we get this wonderful view out across Lima.
So we've just had the most authentic Peruvian meal so far at El Adan. So there's two things that you have to eat in Peru. It's like a chili fried beef, and there is also like a beef cheek type thing. So we had one of those each at this restaurant. It was really nice. We're now going to go back to the hotel, check in to the new one, and have a bit of a rest before we meet up with everyone else on our tour later.
So it's our last night in Lima, and we're out and about at Kennedy Square, also known as Cat Square because there's a ton of cats here. And we have joined our G Adventures tour, so we're with us on a tour for the next 30 days or so, and we'll go into a bit more detail tomorrow when we're at the airport. We've got a bit more time, but for now we're enjoying Kennedy Square, enjoying being here with the locals, and we're about to go in and get some food. So we'll see you tomorrow at the airport on our way to Cusco.